If you wake up in the morning and those first few steps cause excruciating heel pain, you need to stick around for this week's episode. Hi, I'm Dr. Varner, and this is Right Along with Dr. V, and we are on episode 8. And in this episode, we're going to talk about those dreaded first steps in the morning. Now, if you have plantar fasciitis, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Sometimes those first few steps in the morning are the worst steps of the day. So what we're going to talk about today is, one, I'm going to explain to you why that happens, and two, I'm going to give you some tips on how you can help that get better. Okay? All right, so what is happening? Why are those first few steps in the morning the most painful? So what happens is, when you go to bed at night, your calf and your plantar fascia gets to rest. They're also in a contracted position. So for the most part, our toes are kind of pointed, the sheets and the blankets are laying on them, and the plantar fascia and the calf muscle contracts. Now, it's in that contracted position for 6 to 8 hours while you sleep. Also, during that time, there is a reduction of blood flow that actually makes it to the foot. Now, we already know our plantar fascia just naturally doesn't get a ton of blood flow. But during that time when you're sleeping, it's reduced even further. So what happens is, you wake up in the morning, your alarm goes off, you hop out of bed, and you immediately load that cold and stiff tissue with 100% of your weight. And so that sharp pain that you feel is actually micro tearing of your plantar fascia. So how do we stop this? How do we wake up in the morning and make sure that those first few steps are not the worst steps of our day? So we do that by waking up your foot before you stand up. So I'm going to give you a few tips on how you can do this so that those first few steps in the morning for you get much better. All right, so the first thing that I want you to do, you wake up, that alarm goes off, you roll over, you turn that alarm off, and then before you get up, I want you to do some ankle pumps. So what are ankle pumps? So ankle pumps are when you take your foot and you're going to move it back and forth, right? So what is that doing? One, that is gently stretching your calf and your plantar fascia. And more importantly, it's increasing blood flow to your foot. So we're activating that calf muscle, blood flow is increasing to the foot, the tissue is starting to wake up. When it wakes up, it's met with the oxygen and the nutrients that it needs from a good blood supply. And so the tissue can be better prepared to take on the load, right? The second thing that I want you to do is, I want you to keep a towel or a belt next to the bed. And what you're going to do is, you're going to wrap that towel or belt around the ball of your foot. And then I want you to gently pull your toes towards you. You're going to hold this for about 30 seconds or so. And then I want you to repeat it. Okay? What that exercise is doing is, it's stretching that plantar fascia and that calf muscle out so it's not stiff. Okay? It also continues to increase blood flow to these tissues. Okay? Now, the last thing is the thing that most people miss, right? So what you want to avoid once you do those two stretches is, you want to avoid hitting the floor for the first time barefoot, right? You want to make sure that you keep a supportive house shoe or a supportive sandal next to your bed, so that when you get up, those first few steps are supported. Okay, so those are just a few tips that you can do to kind of help reduce that excruciating morning foot pain. But if you want a full routine, I've actually created one. It is called my 5-minute morning reset, and it'll show you a 5-minute routine you can do every morning before you get out of bed. So it's free. The link for it is in my bio, so go ahead and click and find it there. And that's all I have for episode 8. If you have questions about your feet, please leave them below in the comments. I am happy to answer them. And remember, when your feet feel good, everything else gets a little easier.